Hello and welcome to our Work Well live webinar. Hope everybody is well on this lovely and reasonably sunny Wednesday afternoon, certainly sunny in Dublin. Maybe if you could do me a big favor, let me know through the chat, no matter what platform you're tuning in on. If you can, let me know you can hear me, you can see me, and then let me know what the weather is like wherever you are in the country. I'm in Dublin. I'm beside the Phoenix Park here in Ashtown, looking out on the Royal Canal. And it's looking pretty sunny at the moment. So long may that continue into the long weekend as well. So just let me know in the chat if you could that you can hear me, and then we'll get on with the show then soon after that. Yeah, workplace well-being day fast approaching. So workplace well-being week for a lot of people. A lot of people embracing the week, which is great to see and to hear. We'll talk a little bit about that today on our webinar. So if you have some questions, you have some comments, some ideas, this is going out live on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. It's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. So no matter what platform you're tuning in on, if you just pop something in the comment section, I will see it. So I'll be able to see it. And brilliant! I'm starting to see them coming in now. Where we got a nice mix, some Wexford, dry but cloudy. That's okay. I'll take that. The dry weather. There's a bit of sunny weather on the way, isn't there? For the country. So where are we? Where else we got? We got Lorraine in Newry. Cool, but dry. That's not too bad. Lisa is in Tipperary. Audrey is in Dublin. Fantastic. Okay. Jackie in Galway. Hi, Jackie. How are you doing? Thanks for that lovely thank you note a few weeks ago, by the way, Jackie. Okay, great. So sound is good. Video is good. Excellent. So all through this session, pop a question, pop a comment in the comment section in whatever platform you're watching, and I'll try and get through as many as we can. And it's sunny in Cavan and it's sunny in Dublin. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so it's your first time joining. So Work Well Live webinars. My name is Brian. I'm the founder of the Work Well community and Workplace Wellbeing Ireland. So it's kind of grown into, it's a real, about 4,000 members now at the moment. And our mission really is to empower people and organizations to develop, manage, and measure their own wellbeing programs. So that's the goal, that's the mission. We have these free webinars. We have podcasts as well. Actually, season 5 is launching next week. I'll have some details on that at the very end of the session today. We've got a forum, we've got a blog, we have an online learning hub as well, the Work Well Institute. So let's say you like what you see today and you kind of want to dive deeper on a particular subject. You can go to workwellinstitute.org and you can sign up to one of our courses. You can have a look at what's available there as well. So that's the idea. A big community, very open to questions, very open to comments, feedback as well. So it's very much community driven. So any thoughts are always welcome. Now, so I want to talk about today, we're going to talk about kind of above and beyond Workplace Wellbeing Day. So I'm a big fan of Workplace Wellbeing Day. I absolutely love the initiative. It's in its 7th year this year. It really helps kind of some companies that might have been doing nothing, some companies maybe that were on the fence about doing anything, they might be get involved and start doing something. It just kind of draws attention to the area of workplace health promotion. So it's a really good thing in that regard. My intention today is, I think some companies might just be seeing it for the first time, might be getting involved for the first time, or it's the only time of year they actually do something. I just want to show what else is going on in the area of workplace wellbeing in Ireland, in the area of workplace health promotion. And believe me, there's a lot going on, and maybe you're not familiar with a lot of it, but there's a lot of really good stuff going on. So hopefully today, maybe you can get some ideas, maybe you can get some motivation to do that a little bit more. So that's the intention today. How does that sound? That all sound good? I'm hearing a hell yeah coming back through the screen there. So thank you so much for all the enthusiasm. So now I've got some slides that I'm just going to share here. Just bear with me one moment. Here they are. So yeah, at any stage, if you can't see or hear, just let me know. I'll pop back into the chat where I can. So I delivered this session to the UK Forum for Health and Wellbeing last month. So I was privileged to be asked to deliver this to 40 of the top companies in the UK. And it was, it was really well received. I was actually only afterwards, I was thinking, I've actually never delivered this particular kind of these details to an Irish audience. So I think with Workplace Wellbeing Day coming up this Friday, I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to do that. So, when I was kind of starting out over the last number of years, like since maybe 2014, 2015, I was always looking at what's going on elsewhere that I can learn from and maybe bring back to as best practice in Ireland. So there's lots of standards out there. Let's say for starters, we've got the HSE in the UK, the management standards. They date back to 2004. So really details kind of 8 areas they focus on, but, really kind of groundbreaking at the time and still used to this very day. And actually that UK forum I mentioned that I was speaking at last month, they were actually feeding back to the HSE on some possible improvements for the management standards. So they were one of the very early kind of national standards. You can still find them today, the HSE, the management standards. And I know some Irish companies would have kind of adopted some or all of their practices. 2013, we saw Canada, the first national standard for psychosocial well-being in the workplace. Canada were the first country in the world to adopt something like this. Again, that's still there today. There's great documentation online about that we can all learn from. Australia really lead by example in this area. They've got maybe not quite national standards, but each state has kind of really detailed and structured kind of legislation and policies and supports around workplace health and safety, both physical and psychosocial. And then last year, you may be familiar if you follow the webinars and the podcast, the first global standard for psychosocial well-being in the workplace was launched. So this ISO 45003. So lots going on internationally, lots of really good stuff going on. And I kind of always felt then, when I came back then to speak to Irish companies, and I told them I was working in the area of workplace well-being, I think they kind of thought I was talking about beanbags and yoga. So that was a little disappointing, I'm not going to lie. Some companies do still think a little bit like this, but thankfully, I think the majority are changing, are moving. There's a real shift. And just before I talk about that change, when I say workplace well-being or workplace health promotion, here is exactly what I am talking about. Let me know actually in the comments, have you come across this, the World Health Organization, the healthy workplace model? Just let me know in the comments. This dates back to 2010, and it's a really foundational document. It's actually, if you did a postgrad in workplace wellness with me at Trinity, it is that's the first reading assignment we'll go through. And it's also if you do the 8-step framework course, the online course with me on the Workwell Institute, it's also the very first reading assignment. So it's a really detailed foundational text. And in that, they had this specific model or the avenues of influence, as they call it. Now, for the purposes of our conversation today, I'm only interested in the 4 outer circles. So when I talk about workplace well-being, workplace health promotion, I'm talking about number 1, you could be talking about the physical work environment. So the 4 different areas. 1 is the physical. And traditionally, we might be familiar with this. This is maybe your old school health and safety. Might have sat in here. So the physical work environment. But I'm also talking about the psychosocial work environment. So mental well-being at work. And we saw the ISO 45003. So that would deal directly with this particular area here. And it's an area that's getting a lot of increased focus in recent years, which is great. I think because going back 5-10 years, health and well-being was probably only considered physical. So we have the psychosocial environment. Another growing area as well is the enterprise community involvement. So this could be anything from your, let's say, getting family members, spouses involved in some of what you're doing in the workplace. It could be children coming in to visit Santa or going on Easter egg hunts. But it could be, let's say you have diversity and inclusion community within your organization. You might have an LGBT group. You might have women at work. These kind of different networks or communities within your organization. but also it could be externally then as well. How do you interact with the external community, your neighbors, local businesses? What about charity partners? Do you do any work with charity partners? So all your ESG, your CSR work is all included here. And then finally, it's the personal health resources. So there's overlap between the 4 quadrants, but this could be anything an individual engages with. So it could be your yoga class, but it could be anything all the way up to, really leadership training programs. It could be your EAP program. So that's where there'd be overlap with the psychosocial work environment. So anything an individual in your organization can engage with or avail of. So I hope that makes sense there. It's going to pop back into the chat now. Let me know if anyone has, okay, so I'm seeing a good mix. So people have seen it. Yeah, the WHO model. Aoife has seen it. Laura has seen it. Great. Lorraine hasn't seen it now, so it's a bit of a mix. Yeah, no, it's really good. And by the way, you can download that. That's a really good document. It's all free to download. If you Google the WHO Healthy Workplace Model, you will see that. You'll get the document. It's short enough, like it's not too big, but I definitely recommend checking that out. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. So that's the scene kind of set. Again, let me know in the chat here again. Who has heard of the Irish almost equivalent, if you like? So in Ireland last year, December 16th to be precise, we launched the Healthy, so what was called the Healthy Ireland at Work, a national framework for healthy workplaces in Ireland, promoted by Healthy Ireland, all developed through Healthy Ireland and the Department of Health. So let me know if you've come across this, because it was, I don't know, it was probably a commitment or something that it had to be launched in 2021, but it was December 16th. I think a lot of people may have missed the actual launch. But number one, so let me know if you've heard of it. And number two, if you have heard of it, have you had a look at the framework itself? And have you had a look at some of the case studies? Because there's some really good case studies involved there. So let me know actually if you've come across that. I'll download. So Edel is downloading it as I type. I don't know if that's the WHO or the Healthy Ireland. By the way, I'll include a link to the Healthy Ireland and the WHO in the mail that goes out with this. Okay, so great model. Yeah, Michael, I agree with you there. Yeah, and Jackie. Yeah, I think Jackie's going to download it as well, which is great. Okay, so most people hadn't seen. Audrey hadn't seen it either. Okay, so this is the Healthy Ireland one now. So yeah, it's probably to do with timing. And so I'd encourage you to have a look at it. So it's a really good model. It's broad. It covers, now it's not going solely on the psychosocial. So it's taking the World Health Organization approaches, those 4 quadrants. So it's looking at those. Here are the aims. So you see kind of almost a 3-pillared approach, if you like. So it's good for government, it's good for employers, and it's good for workers. So this kind of echoes what the World Health Organization would say, kind of their definition of a healthy workplace. It's the collaboration between employers and employees and a continuous improvement process that will lead to that healthy workplace. So there are the aims. And let's get to the good stuff. So what's included in the framework? So actually, it dates back to 2015. There's actually quite a bit of work involved in this. There was a public consultation, key stakeholders, kind of experts in the area were involved. Lots of research was done, and actually there's really great research that I use quite a bit as well on some of the programs. There's an umbrella review of international studies that's actually really useful, has some really good statistics in it. Capacity building was included, and I'll touch a bit on that. I'm going to talk about education shortly, but there's a program that was effectively funded as part of this. There's the publication of the framework itself, which I'd encourage you to have a look at. And what I really like as well, the case studies. So Eli Lilly, for example, are one, is a really good example. Una, who's leading the health and wellbeing program at Eli Lilly, she was heavily involved, and she's of this parish. So check out the case studies. There's some really good examples in there you can check out. So in green, that's what's been included to date. So that, as they've said themselves, it's not the finished article just yet. We can expect, hopefully this year. I think almost a gap with frameworks can be is, okay, that's great. I see what I'm supposed to do, but how do I get from the, almost the theory to the implementation? How do I implement? What's there's no kind of bridge in between. So it looks like they're planning an implementation plan to go along with what they've published today. So I think that'll be really useful. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's included in the implementation plan, which we'll hopefully see this year. And in my 8-step framework, step 4 is to draft an operating plan. I think that's really important. So it looks like they're going to be including maybe the templates or kind of examples as well. And there's an accreditation coming down the line as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about accreditations a little bit further on. So what do we think of this so far? I think that, as they've said themselves, like it's not the finished article. But it's a step in the right direction. So we do now. I don't have to look enviously at other countries now. We actually have our own framework. I think it's a foundational step, but it's something we can really build on. Yeah, good point there. They can be very great models. Yeah, all interlinked. You're right there. Yes, and not as difficult to navigate as you would think. And that's why I kind of have my 8-step framework, where I try to make it as simple as possible. But if you do step through the World Health Organization or the CDC have a model as well, which I can share later. I guess it depends how your organization is set up, maybe some of the structures that are in place, and maybe what might work best for you and your organization. Some nice bedtime reading there, absolutely, with a glass of wine. Okay, so that's the healthy workplace framework. Now, if a framework is to be successful, in my opinion, something like the healthy workplace framework, I think we need kind of the supporting environment around it. The societal environment kind of needs to be supportive of that framework. So let's just have a quick look at what's going on in Ireland, because I think we're moving in the right direction again in the kind of the wider societal environment. We have we're actually in our second iteration of our mental health policy. So I actually missed the launch. I was away last week. There was a launch of the updated policy. I think it's called Stronger Together. But so there's a mental health policy for the whole island of Ireland, or for the Republic of Ireland, certainly. We're in, again, at least our second iteration of the National Physical Activity Plan, again, promoted by Healthy Ireland. And we actually do great work, and not everyone will believe this, but in the area of active travel. There's a public consultation ongoing on this at the moment. And also, I was actually doing a little bit of research on this when I was kind of chatting before the UK presentation. And I actually came across a really kind of surprising some statistics. This is from Sustrans. They're a Northern Ireland social enterprise, and they were actually using this. They presented this to the Northern Ireland Assembly back in November 2020, and they were actually highlighting the lack of funding in active travel, or the lack of spend in Northern Ireland. But I think it's interesting to see the amount of funding that is being spent in the Republic on active travel. And that maybe if you're listening to the news, you mightn't always mightn't feel like it, but it does appear that we are actually spending quite a bit in terms of active travel. So there's just an example of the kind of wider societal supports that will kind of enable something like the healthy workplace framework to be successful. But let's kind of niche down a little bit then to the workplace environment. So similar to the societal environments, we need the actual supporting work environments should be supportive as well to what we're trying to do with the framework. And again, we're making improvements in this area. So you've probably come across the Health and Safety Authority, the HSA, and maybe if you hadn't before the pandemic, you probably did during the pandemic, because there are a lot of really excellent supports available, including ergonomic self-assessment for people who are working from home, not to mention all the COVID-19 guidelines for workplaces and stuff like that. So effectively, the HSA is a body that enforces the 2005, the Health and Safety at Work Act. That's their kind of primary function. But they do a lot of great work as well on top of that, and in health promotion. Again, hands up, who let me know who has heard of Work Positive. The workpositive.ie, have a look at it there. So this is something developed by the HSA and Ulster University. So, and it's before its time. So before ISO 45003, but it would work really well with 45003 because it's a psychosocial risk assessment. So it's something you could use to bring into your workplace. It's GDPR'd to within an inch of its life, but you can kind of set it up, get the particular questions that you want to ask, and you can get a baseline, an anonymous baseline, then kind of a psychosocial risk assessment of where you are at your workplace and maybe what areas you need to focus on. So check that out. That's workpositive.ie. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Yeah, workpositive.ie. Okay. So what else is going on? Last year, government published a national remote work strategy, which I'm sure you've heard about. And actually, literally, I was just coming onto the session today, and I was seeing in the Oireachtas committee today, there's a presentation on because there's a bill going through the houses of the Oireachtas at the moment on the right to request remote working, which some of you in the community, maybe I shared the link on when the public consultation came around. So that's being discussed in the Oireachtas committee at the moment, literally today. So I'm sure you might hear some snippets on the news this evening about that. We've had last year as well, we had the code of practice on the right to disconnect was published. So not quite legislation, but really detailed guidelines, kind of best practice document, if you like. Plus, there's actually a template for creating a right to disconnect policy at your workplace included in this document. So if you don't have one already, I mean, that's an excellent place to start. And I mean, as well, you've probably all been hearing in the news over the last week, there's the work-life balance bill, which is being discussed and being brought before Cabinet as well. So it would be interesting to see the finer details in that one. But long story short, look at all these look at all this movement pushing in the same direction. All these supports looking to create that healthier, safer, more sustainable working environment. So it all seems to be moving in the right direction to support something like the healthy workplace framework and kind of healthy workplaces. Any thoughts on this? What am I going at a good pace here? Great to know. Yeah, no problem, Adele. Yeah, I'll try and include any links that I'm mentioning here today in the email that goes out afterwards. So if you don't get to capture something, I'll include all those links. So let's say just other factors. There's no doubt talent attraction and retention. This was a big deal before the pandemic. It's just as big a deal, if not even bigger now. Companies, the onus really is on the company to demonstrate that they genuinely look after, an employee's health and well-being. So there's real kind of positive pressure, I would say, for companies to demonstrate they're not just ticking the box, they're actually doing something meaningful in this area. All the multinationals are here in Ireland, so there's no question. There's even if, and what they do is they do really good stuff, but there's real perception that they have the best of the best of the best of everything, really, and that includes well-being programs. So there's almost this incentive on other companies tend to try and maybe match what they're doing. Workplace Wellbeing Day has been another step in the right direction, encouraging more and more companies in its 7th year now. And I hope everyone is doing something on Friday or this week to celebrate and recognize the day. And then the accreditations. So we've got 2 at the moment, and there's a 3rd one on the way, as I mentioned. So the guys who set up Workplace Wellbeing Day, IBEC, were first out of the blocks with the Keep Well mark. That was the first accreditation. Second was out of the blocks was Healthy Place to Work. So from the guys who brought us a Great Place to Work. And the 3rd now, hopefully, will it be this year? Will it be next year? I'm not sure. But from Healthy Ireland, so related to the Healthy Workplace Framework, there's an accreditation coming as well. And as I understand it, that will be aimed more at small to medium enterprises. So, the Keep Well mark and Healthy Place to Work, being realistic, they're probably they're expensive. So they're probably in the realm of the larger organizations. But the Healthy Ireland accreditation now will probably be a bit more affordable and suitable to smaller to medium enterprises. So another really positive step to come out of the framework. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about education. I've got education, I'm going to talk about employment, and maybe let's see what else. I think that's it. And we can look, any questions about any of this at any stage, just let me know. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, so education. So with all this happening here, companies moving to this area, you kind of hope that there was capacity and, and a skilled enough workforce to be able to manage and measure and deliver on these programs. And the answer is there hasn't been really to date. And that's why I thought it was kind of great foresight from Healthy Ireland and the Healthy Workplace Framework, the work they were doing, that even though the framework was only published in December, back in 2018, they co-funded, along with NUIG, the first kind of postgrad of its kind in the country. So postgrad in health promotion, workplace wellness. So this is at NUIG. And, I say the first of its kind, I say it's the first kind of non-clinical program, because we have excellent, occupational health, organizational psychology, those kind of programs in the country. But this is the first program that, let's say, as maybe you're a HR leader, you're a business professional, or you're in a different career, but you can kind of upskill with this kind of a postgrad. So that kind of a program to work then in a workplace health promotion role. So that was NUIG. That's still going strong. We kind of tried to follow suit soon afterwards. I was, in the privileged position to be asked to lead the postgrad in workplace wellness at Trinity, and all going well, we'll be going again in September of this year. So watch this space. We do a lot of master classes as well. Actually, a few master classes coming up soon, and then my own kind of the WorkWell Institute, as I mentioned. So in particular, I would say the 8-step framework program. So it's 8 steps to embed a culture of health. That has just proved really, really popular. And as well as the online content, there's a really nice kind of community within the community building, if you like. So the people that are taking the course, they're probably individuals within companies that are looking to grow and build and measure a program. And they're meeting other people, other students on the course. So we've got a really nice little cohort building there as well. And we're all learning from each other. And I should mention, there's another program as well that was launched last year. I'm not overly familiar with it, but it's in the TU of the Shannon, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, or was it LIT? It's around the Limerick area anyway, but it's in kind of leadership and well-being. If anyone's on the call that knows a bit more about that, maybe let me know. Let me just see if there's any comments. I just have to jump back. Oh, Aoife. So Aoife's just asking a question. I'll come back to this, Aoife. We'll talk a little bit about this at the end, actually, if you like. Just Aoife's looking to steal some ideas for workplace wellbeing. They're happy to talk about that. I've got about another 5 minutes left or so, Aoife, and then let's get stuck into some ideas for workplace wellbeing day. So just on let's say the postgrad in Trinity, or in the 8-step framework, the 8 steps to embed a culture of health program at the WorkWell Institute. Kind of what I'm really trying to do is, because I see a lot of random acts of wellness in Irish companies, just a talk here, a talk there, a bowl of fruit there, don't really lead to anything sustainable. So I'm trying to promote long-term sustainable programs, but I'm also trying to promote this idea of primary interventions. Because we're not bad in Ireland at, let's say, the tertiary interventions, where we have an intervention in a workplace to actually treat issues that are already there. So, employment or employee assistance programs, excellent programs, but they are pretty much there to treat issues that are already, an individual already has. Great program, but they're a tertiary intervention. We're not bad on the secondary interventions either. So it's stress management programs, mindfulness, resilience training is popular. There might be something like mental health first aid, another excellent program. But they are there for managing issues, supporting us to manage issues. So again, the issues are already there, and these programs are there to help us manage these issues. But what something like, what I try and promote, and what ISO 45003 certainly promotes, is primary interventions. How can we create interventions that will actually help us prevent these issues occurring in the first place? And that might be something like, the risk assessment approach. So just asking people, what really annoys you about your job, about your role? And if there's a bit of overlap with a few people, can you, maybe it's the roster comes out every Friday evening at 5 p.m. And so we've absolutely no time to plan our, the next week because it comes out so late. Can you mitigate that risk by bringing the roster out every Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. instead? So simple things like that. Can you address these issues head on? Can you eliminate, substitute, or mitigate some of the risks that are happening in your work, the hazards that are happening in your workplace? And that's how, over time, you prevent prevent issues. So that's the real goal of what we're trying to do. Hope that makes sense now. Pop back in. Yeah, prevention is better than cure. Yeah, absolutely, Mairead. Okay, so I think a lot of people are joining for the new job opportunities, because there really is quite a few opportunities out there. Now, I don't want to get carried away here and get people thinking like it's just a flood and there's thousands of roles out there. But I run a weekly newsletter, kind of Work Well Weekly, and it's, like I said, it's not a flood, but every single week this year, and I've a newsletter every single week, I've had at least one opportunity, one new role to share with the community. There's a really good one this week at PTSB, which I'll show you in a moment. So where are the opportunities? So there's no better place to start than looking, if you're currently with an employer, what are the opportunities within the employer? Is there an opportunity to create a role? Does the role exist already? Really, so working directly for a company as their well-being leader, well-being advocate, that's definitely your best bet. And some companies, depending on the size, will have a team. AIB have a team of 7. I think ESB are similar. Bank of Ireland have 3. Larger companies, but they're teams of people, as opposed to some companies might just have 1, maybe 2 individuals. Smaller companies, it might be a shared role. There might be well-being plus ESG or something like that, or in the PTSB role, as you'll see. So that's one. So working directly is number 1. Number 2, all the private health insurers now have, they used to be in just providing private health insurance, but they do an awful lot more now. So they all have well-being teams. So let's say if you're a client of one of these private health insurers, you have access to their team of people who might have different skill sets in the area of workplace health promotion. So working for any of the private health insurers, there might be opportunities to work with the private health insurer, working on their client accounts, if you know what I mean. So opportunities with the private health insurers. And then thirdly, there's an emerging group of well-being service providers. So the largest of whom would probably be Spectrum Life. There's also Zevo Health. There's Pep Talk. We've got Fit Vision. I'm probably missing a few there. You're welcome to share a few online. I can't, but they're growing number of these kind of service providers, and all they do is kind of deliver well-being services to companies. And again, they might have a mix of roles, a mix of skill sets. So there's kind of a couple of ideas there in that space. So I'm just seeing a couple of comments here. Jackie's just talking about, so on Friday in Galway, I think Jackie's hosting an event in Galway. If you send me on those details, Jackie, if there's a link to it, send it on to me and I'll include it in the email I send out. And for some reason, I'm not seeing who the LinkedIn user is. It might be just people's settings and stuff, but someone on LinkedIn, thank you for sharing, is talking about there's a postgrad in the Royal College of Surgeons. Oh, the positive health one. Yeah, very good. I don't know if that's Tom actually seeing. I can't, for some reason, it's not coming through on my own screen here. But the diploma in positive health, that's worth checking out. Brilliant, guys. Thanks for sharing. So I'll show you a couple of open roles, if you like, maybe just to whet your appetite. If you're on the newsletter, you'll have seen this one. So Mary McCluskey, who I spoke to recently for the podcast, and you can listen back to that. So she's vacating her role. So check out this role. This is open. It's only open. It's not even open a week, and there's 125 applicants. So you can see there's demand. People are interested in this area now, probably because. So this is a role, an example where there's, it's not just well-being. So you can see there's D&I in there plus engagement. So it's covering kind of broad spectrum. Over time, I think we're going to see more and more companies. I think the well-being role will be a dedicated role, and I'm seeing that happening in more and more companies. Here's another positive step. Now, I just checked. It's actually, the role has just closed, unfortunately. But so Meta, Facebook's parent, they're hiring. And they're actually hiring globally for what they're calling wellness response partners. And again, I shared the overall role, I guess, the wellness response manager, the manager of all the partners role was kind of a remote US role. But if anyone who saw that in a newsletter, like, this was a significant package. This was the best package I've seen for any kind of well-being or wellness related role. So that was, I think that may have closed, but that was, again, another positive step in the right direction. So there are opportunities out there. If you join if you're on the newsletter, you'll see all of these updates. And any thoughts on the opportunities there? Is that what people are seeing? Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think for some, like, I can't see who this is. I think is this Tom mentioning this, but it's this software I'm using now. When I go back into LinkedIn later, I will see exactly. I'll be able to see clearly who's commenting. But for some reason on Restream, it pops up. It's just telling me LinkedIn user has made this comment. So hopefully people will be able to see that LinkedIn user, who's possibly Tom James. Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. Okay. Any questions on the job opportunities or anything like that? Let me know, or drop me a line later if you like as well. No problem doing that. I'll just put up my email address there if anyone wants to get in touch. Very quickly, a couple of case studies. Accenture doing great work. They've got a mental health ally program. It's developed. It came out of an individual's a bad kind of relationship with a supervisor, and it's turned into an Ireland-wide program and a UK-wide program. Really good, kind of detailed. It's ongoing. It's continuing. It's kind of continuous improvement. It's not just you do a 1 day or 2 day training and then you're done, which I see often with many kind of mental health programs. There's continuing network of support and ongoing training. That's the Mental Health Ally program at Accenture. I've got a really good webinar on that for anyone who wants to check it out. CISC, for anyone who knows Richie Butler, he's doing a great job at CISC, and he came on the podcast recently. And so I think CISC are going to be the first company in Ireland to kind of really fully adopt ISO 45003. So almost like a live case study, if you like. So I'll try and get Richie back on the podcast or on a webinar to talk about that. And AIB, so large company, but they've got a senior leader in a full-time well-being role, and they also have a full-time team of well-being working on well-being. I think it's at least 3 people, and then they also have a wide network of 120 well-being advocates, as they call them, or well-being champions, as some people might refer to them as. So they're doing a lot of work in this area. They're also toying with the idea of including maybe well-being as a metric on the performance objectives for line managers at the year end. It's not in place at the moment. It's just something they're discussing. I think that'll be a really positive step. I don't know any companies in Ireland doing that as yet. I've seen it in the US. Now, you're not talking 100% or anything like that, but maybe it's a 10% of your overall. It's just a target to aim for. Am I doing what I can to support my team? Okay, yeah, any thoughts? I've been speaking quite a bit there now. Any thoughts? Or people really just want to get some ideas for Wellbeing Day? Let me know any thoughts. Cool. Yeah, it is. So it is Tom there. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Okay. Any thoughts? Any thoughts? Let me know on this so far. And just while we're on the subject of Wellbeing Day, and Aoife, who was asking earlier, I don't know if you're based in Dublin. Here's what I'm doing anyway on the morning of Workplace Wellbeing Day. So this Friday morning, all welcome to join. A nice early start. Well, not that early, really, like 7:30. So I've set it up for 7:30. So if you're traveling let's say you're traveling from the other side of the city or from just outside Dublin, should be able to beat the traffic. You get there before rush hour kicks in. We'll go for a little walk. To be honest with you, it's only about 4K really. So 7:30 start. The after party is in the hole in the wall at 8:30 in the morning. We'll have porridge. They do an excellent bowl of porridge there. I think the fruit people are going to be providing some fruit. There'll be coffees there. And for anyone who knows the hole in the wall, Martin does a great job there. He keeps the Christmas decorations are up all year round. So it'll be like a Christmas party there on Friday morning for anyone who wants to join. And we'll have a coffee, we'll have a chat after the walk. And hopefully the traffic will have died down by the time if you're moving on to, if you're heading elsewhere, if you're heading on to work, or you'll probably feel like heading to Coppers afterwards, to be honest with you. But The traffic should have died down at least, no matter where you're heading. So that's this Friday morning. And I'm also launching the podcast. I'll just mention this, season 5 of the podcast, on early next week. So Stavrula Leka, who is actually, she's based in UCC, and she chaired the working group for ISO 45003. So she worked to kind of create and structure and develop ISO 45003. So she's kind of a real superstar in the field. Doesn't want any of the attention though. So she's kind of working away there in UCC. So I've had a brilliant chat with Stavrula, and that's coming out next week. So lots going on. There's the jacket. Happy to take any questions or thoughts or comments that anyone may have. But that's like a really kind of bit of a whistle stop tour as to what's going on in Ireland at the moment. So if there's any questions or thoughts in terms of education, employment opportunities, frameworks, I'd be more than happy to chat about that. I should have ironed that shirt, but I don't know, just didn't get around to it. Okay, so yeah, let me know if there's any kind of thoughts or feedback. Oh, Sue is going to be in Barna. Okay, very good. So is Barna and Galway. So will you be? That's, I think, going to Jackie's event. Some of the leaders. Oh, Mikey. Well, Michael. So tell you, if you haven't already, follow the go to workwellpodcast.com. So I tried to interview all the leaders in Ireland and further afield on the podcast. So I've got some really good conversations up there already. Check that out. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, Laura, hopefully you'll be able to join on Friday, Laura. And Aoife as well. Aoife's asking, face-to-face. Well, face-to-face. Well, Friday face-to-face, kind of face-to-face on Friday if you're available, Aoife. And yeah, I'm probably going to bring the face-to-face events back, in-person events, but probably not till September, I would say, at the earliest. I'll probably be doing that in around then. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Edel. Edel's going to sign up to the course. Thanks very much. It's a lovely little kind of network we're building, as well as the content, which I think is great. It's a nice little kind of cohort of leaders we're building up there as well. So thanks, Edel. It's workwellinstitute.org for that. Oh, and there's Mary of this parish. There's Mary McCluskey. Hi, Mary. It's her role. That should be fine. I'm sure Mary might be free to answer a question or two about that role. I'm sure she'd be happy to help someone kind of fill that role as she moves on to greener pastures. I'm sure that wouldn't be, I'm sure you'd be happy to do that, Mary. Yep, great stuff. Check that out, Michael. Workwellpodcast.com. Thanks everyone for the comments. Thank you, Lorraine. I think I've missed a few. They're flying in now, so I'm missing a few posts here. So apologies now if I've missed it. What I've got here. Oh, mental health buddy. Yes, so mental health ally program at Accenture is what it's called. They call them allies, and they kind of develop their own in-house program there, and it's a one-day equivalent, but it's kind of almost like the strength in numbers. Last time I spoke to them, it was in the hundreds of people that had gone through the program. So it wasn't just a handful of people here and there, and then they were finished. It was like, you're talking hundreds. And as I said, it's gone into the UK then as well, Accenture in the UK, and probably will go to further afield, Australia, New Zealand, etc. Oh, thanks, Sid. Sid, hope the old PhD research is coming on well, Sid. Anita, when will we see any kind of output on that? Sid is doing a PhD in this area in UCD. Aoife, pleasure. Hopefully see you on Friday. Oh, Tony, how you doing? I met up with Tony yesterday in Trinity. Glad you enjoyed the tour. Thanks very much, Tony. Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks, everyone, for all the lovely messages. Great stuff, everyone. Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, workwellireland.ie. You can find out most of the details, links to all the stuff. You're raffling some gym. Oh, yeah. Let me know, what are you guys doing for Workplace Wellbeing Day? Oh, good, good question here. So let me know what you're doing for workplace well-being day. Any other interesting events? I'm delivering a couple of workshops for companies later on in the day. So Lisa is asking, are all roles like this requiring HR qualification? So historically, traditionally, probably yes, because mostly the the well-being role has been in addition to, like, it's been HR plus well-being. It was the add-on. It was the 10% in addition to an already existing HR role. So historically, it has been. That doesn't mean that it has to be. It depends on the nature of the role. You saw the meta role that I advertised there. So that was a very specifically focusing on psychosocial well-being when you dug into the detail. So they were looking for people with a psychology background. Now, that's the most detailed job description I have seen, by the way, for a wellness role. And they were looking for 12 plus years of a psychology background. But it depends on the role. There's a really good mix out there now starting to emerge. People who have been team leaders in customer service are moving into well-being roles within their company. Internal moves, you almost don't necessarily need that HR qualification. Look, there's no harm in having any kind of qualification, really. It's always going to support you. Traditionally, though, if you have an occupational health, organizational psychology, HR, that is going to help, but it's not always the case. And there's the leader in LinkedIn, for example, comes from a physical health background. So it's a good mix, but any kind of qualification in this area, and you'll be ahead of most people, to be honest, because as I pointed out, there's only really a few courses out there in this area at the moment. Laughter yoga. I could do a bit of that myself now, a bit of laughter yoga. That sounds great, Marie. That's related to the old Gym Plus Coffee stuff. Love Gym Plus Coffee are great, aren't they? Love the hoodies. I'm actually trying to I might get some of those for Parkit. We're hoping to get some kind of merchandise for Parkit. Anyone who's familiar with my social enterprise must have a word with Niall there and Gym Plus Coffee. Okay, so good stuff. PhD is moving forward, working on the paper. Listen, best of luck with that. Look forward to seeing some of the outputs. Oh yeah, good. So here's a good point here. So anyone wanted to make inroads in these roles, so get involved to employee resource groups. Yeah. Okay, this is like a case study here on this is brilliant. So if you demonstrate a passion for a topic on well-being or D&I, prove your worth, and this is how this person's role evolved from being a PA. The whole message isn't coming through for me here, but that's a great suggestion there, actually. And part of the step 1 on the 8-step framework, 8 steps to embed a culture of health, we talk about making the business case initially for a well-being program if you already have a role established. But if you don't have a role established, making a business case for establishing a role at your workplace. So gathering evidence, putting a case together, speaking to leadership about it. How do you have a conversation with leadership about it? All that kind of stuff. But this is a great suggestion here in maybe you might even be involved in setting up an employee resource group if it doesn't exist. Something like D&I, as is mentioned here, or Wellbeing Champions is a nice way to get things started. Okay, as I said, if there's any further questions, thoughts, comments at all, drop me a line. I'd be more than happy to chat to you about it, to answer questions on it. Listen, thanks to everyone for joining in and for being so interactive. Have a brilliant workplace well-being day. Whatever you do, make sure you celebrate the day. Do something to recognize it, but then make sure you keep it going all year round. Well-being isn't for one day of the year. It's for every day of the year. So have a brilliant day. Have a brilliant week. And if you can, join us on Friday morning in the Phoenix Park for some porridge and some chats then as well. That would be fantastic. Listen, have a lovely afternoon, and I will talk to you guys soon. Great stuff, everyone. Thanks for the lovely comments. Yeah, well said, Tony. So the volunteers and well-being, a lot of the brilliant programs I've mentioned, that mental health ally program at Accenture, that all started as just some people interested in the area and volunteering their time, kind of side of desk initially, to get it off the ground, to go in their own time to do some training course. And then they brought it back into the organization. And it's kind of, when it kind of grew from that and was so popular and so many people were interested and engaged, it just caught the attention of leadership, and it has turned into a formal, fully backed program. As I said, that's grown to different jurisdictions now as well. So in the beginning, you're probably going to have to start kind of just, again, volunteering your time at desk, doing it in your own time. But that's the best way to get started. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Mairead. Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Michael. Great engagement. And thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, everyone. As I said, drop me a message. Thanks, Tony, for joining in. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tom and Janet. Have a great Workplace Wellbeing Day, and I will talk to you all again soon.